Have you ever stopped to think about how a plant that once helped entire communities survive famine could later be dismissed as a weed, restricted, or even outlawed in certain places? Today's story focuses on plants that are nearly impossible to eliminate. Species so tough, nourishing, and persistent that humans once relied on them for survival, only to later attempt to eradicate them. These are the overlooked superfoods. They grow wherever they want, endure fire, drought, and neglect, and continue returning no matter how often they are removed. Some of these plants enrich the soil, feed animals, and sustain people, yet are still treated as unwanted intruders. This perspective may completely change how you think about so-called weeds. 1. Portulaca oleracea, the superfood that was pushed aside. If you've ever noticed small, fleshy, bright green leaves spreading across sidewalks or creeping through garden beds, you've likely encountered Portulaca oleracea, better known as purslane. At first glance, it may seem insignificant, even something to pull out and discard. However, beneath its simple appearance lies a plant that has nourished people for thousands of years and ranks among the most resilient and nutrient-rich greens available. A long history of use purslane is far from a modern discovery. Archaeological findings trace its use back to ancient civilizations, such as Mesopotamia and Egypt, where it was valued both for its juicy leaves and its seeds. Across continents, in Europe, Asia, and the Americas, traditional cultures cultivated it as both a food source and a medicinal plant. Despite this long-standing relationship with humans, purslane has gained a negative reputation in modern agriculture, where it is often labeled a weed. Its rapid growth in disturbed soils, its ability to withstand extreme heat and drought, and its resistance to herbicides make it problematic for monoculture farming. In fields of crops like wheat, corn, or soy, purslane is considered undesirable, not because it is harmful, but because it grows too effectively and competes with cultivated plants. Exceptional nutritional value. What truly sets purslane apart is its nutritional profile. Every part of the plant is edible and packed with valuable compounds. It is one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids, particularly alpha-linolenic acid, ALA, which is uncommon in land plants. Its leaves contain significant amounts of vitamin C and vitamin A through beta-carotene, Yai along with essential minerals like magnesium, potassium, and iron. It is abundant in antioxidants, including betalains and other phytonutrients that help protect cells from oxidative damage. It also provides fiber and a modest amount of protein, supporting digestion and overall satiety. In essence, purslane is a complete superfood hidden in plain sight, combining exceptional nutrition with extraordinary resilience, growth, and survival strength. Once established, purslane is extremely difficult to eliminate. It thrives in hot, dry environments where many cultivated vegetables struggle. Its shallow yet spreading root system allows it to grow in compacted soils, cracks, and neglected areas. It reproduces both through seeds, with each plant producing hundreds that can remain dormant for years, and through stem fragments, which can quickly take root when broken. Unlike most cultivated crops that require careful maintenance, purslane grows with minimal intervention. It reseeds itself, tolerates poor soil, survives drought, and even protects the soil by covering exposed ground and reducing erosion. Culinary applications beyond its resilience and nutrition, purslane is also enjoyable to eat. Its leaves and stems are crisp, slightly sour, and have a refreshing, lemon-like flavor. They can be eaten fresh in salads, blended into drinks, sautéed like leafy greens, or added to soups and stews. The seeds are also edible, offering a mild nutty taste and can be ground into flour or used as a topping. Different cultures have long embraced purslane in their cuisines. In Mediterranean cooking, it is commonly used in salads with olive oil, lemon juice, and garlic. In Middle Eastern dishes, it is cooked alongside chickpeas, tomatoes, and spices. In Mexican cuisine, it appears in traditional stews known as verdolagas, often prepared with pork or beans. The weed paradox. Despite all its benefits, purslane is often removed, sprayed, or restricted in agricultural settings. It is labeled a weed not because it is harmful, but because it does not conform to controlled farming systems. Its independence and efficiency make it incompatible with monoculture practices that depend on uniformity and chemical management. Yet for gardeners, foragers, and those seeking nutrient-rich, low-maintenance plants, purslane is incredibly valuable. It grows where others fail, improves soil health, feeds both people and animals, and resists elimination, truly living up to its identity as a superfood that was unfairly pushed aside. In many ways, Portulaca oleracea represents a contradiction. Overlooked and unwanted, yet one of the most nutritious, drought-resistant, and easy-to-grow plants available. It serves as a reminder that some of the most valuable food sources are those that grow freely without cultivation, quietly thriving in the harshest conditions, waiting to be recognized. 2. Lamb's quarters. Lamb's quarters is another plant that highlights a striking contradiction within modern gardening and agriculture. It appears spontaneously, grows rapidly, and ignores human attempts to control it, which is exactly why it is labeled a weed. Yet from both a biological and nutritional perspective, it is far from undesirable. This plant has adapted to grow alongside human activity, particularly in disturbed soils created by farming, digging, or construction. Wherever the ground is turned, lamb's quarters is likely to appear. What makes this plant remarkable is not only how easily it grows, but also how much nourishment it provides with almost no effort. Its young leaves are tender and mild in flavor, similar to spinach, and can be eaten raw or cooked. When cooked, they become softer and richer, often with a deeper, more mineral taste than many cultivated greens. Unlike traditional crops, lamb's quarters does not need fertile soil, frequent watering, or pest protection. In fact, it often thrives in conditions where other plants fail. Nutritionally, it is exceptionally rich. Studies have shown that lamb's quarters contains more calcium than spinach, along with substantial amounts of magnesium, iron, and vitamins A and C. It also provides a higher concentration of complete plant proteins than most leafy greens. For many traditional societies, this made it an essential food source, especially during times when cultivated crops were scarce or failed. Historically, lamb's quarters was widely consumed. In Europe, it was commonly used as a spring vegetable. In India, it is still known as bathua and is incorporated into flatbreads and various dishes. Indigenous peoples in North America relied on both its leaves and seeds, the latter being closely related to quinoa. In fact, quinoa itself is a domesticated relative of lamb's quarters. What is now sold as a premium health food once grew freely and abundantly in fields around the world. Its decline in status came with the rise of industrial agriculture. Lamb's quarters grows too quickly, sprouts unpredictably, and refuses to stay confined to neat rows. It competes with crops not out of aggression, but because it is highly efficient, quickly converting sunlight into growth, shading the soil, and preventing erosion. In a system built around uniform crops, machinery, and chemical inputs, this independence is seen as a problem. Ironically, lamb's quarters also enhances soil health. Its deep roots draw nutrients from lower soil layers and bring them closer to the surface. When the plant decomposes, those nutrients are returned to the soil, enriching it naturally. In ecological systems, this is beneficial. In industrial farming, it is treated as something to eliminate. Understanding lamb's quarters reveals an important truth. It is not a flaw in agriculture, but a demonstration of resilience. A plant that feeds people, improves soil, and grows without assistance is not a nuisance. It is a survivor and a valuable resource hidden in plain sight. 3. Plantain. Plantain, not to be confused with the starchy tropical fruit, is a modest, often overlooked plant that can be found growing almost everywhere, from garden paths and lawns to roadsides and disturbed ground. Although it is commonly dismissed as a weed, it is actually one of the most versatile and nutrient-rich wild plants available. Its leaves are wide, green, and slightly ribbed, forming a low-growing rosette close to the soil surface. When young, the leaves are soft and can be eaten fresh in salads. As they mature, they become more fibrous and are better suited for cooking or steaming, which softens their texture. Plantain is packed with nutrients, including vitamins A, C, and K, as well as important minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium. It is also high in fiber and contains natural compounds with anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial effects, making it valuable not only as a food but also as a medicinal herb. The roots of plantain are edible as well, and have traditionally been used to support digestive health. The leaves can also be applied directly to the skin to help soothe minor wounds, insect bites, and irritation. The plant produces small, understated flowers on slender stalks, which later develop into tiny seeds that spread easily. This allows plantain to establish itself even in poor soil conditions without any human assistance. Plantain is exceptionally tough. It can withstand drought, compacted soil, and even frequent foot traffic, which explains why it often appears in areas where other plants struggle to survive. This durability, combined with its nutritional and healing properties, makes it a true superfood weed, a plant that grows freely, supports human well-being, and is incredibly difficult to eliminate. Once you begin to understand its value, plantain shifts from being seen as an unwanted plant to a highly useful resource. It can be harvested repeatedly throughout the growing season, and even when left untouched, it contributes to soil protection and improvement. Plantain serves as a reminder that some of nature's most beneficial plants grow quietly in overlooked places, providing food, medicine, and ecological support. In essence, plantain is a plant that cannot be ignored. It nourishes the body, aids in healing, and thrives where many cultivated crops cannot. It is a wild green that is both practical and resilient, deserving recognition in both foraging and gardening. 4. Amaranth. Amaranth is one of the oldest cultivated food plants known to humanity, and its history highlights the deep connection between food, power, and control. Long before modern agricultural systems developed, amaranth sustained entire civilizations. For the Aztecs and other Mesoamerican cultures, it was far more than just a food source. It was essential to survival. The plant produced abundant seeds, matured quickly, and thrived in harsh conditions such as heat, drought, and poor soil where other crops would fail. Its seeds were ground into flour, cooked into porridges, and used in ceremonial foods, while its leaves were consumed like spinach as a daily vegetable. With the arrival of Spanish colonizers, the cultivation of amaranth was intentionally suppressed. Fields were destroyed, seeds were eliminated, and farmers were punished. This was not because the plant lacked value or was harmful, quite the opposite. Amaranth represented self-sufficiency. A crop capable of feeding people without reliance on external supply chains or imported grains symbolized independence. By removing it, colonizers were able to weaken both food security and cultural identity. Despite these efforts, amaranth endured. Today, it still grows wild in fields, along roadsides, and in disturbed environments. In modern industrial agriculture, it is often classified as a problematic weed, particularly certain types known as pigweed. These plants grow rapidly, compete strongly with crops, and have even developed resistance to herbicides, leading farmers to spend enormous resources trying to control them. Yet, nutritionally, amaranth remains exceptional. Its seeds provide complete protein, including lysine, an amino acid that is typically lacking in most grains. They are also rich in iron, calcium, magnesium, and dietary fiber. The leaves are tender, mild in flavor, and packed with vitamins A, C, and K. In many regions of Africa, Asia, and Latin America, amaranth is still deliberately cultivated as both a grain and a leafy vegetable because of how efficiently it produces food with minimal resources. Amaranth did not become an enemy because it failed. It became one because it resisted systems built on dependency, chemical inputs, and centralized control. 5. Dandelion. Dandelion is perhaps one of the most misunderstood plants in the world. It is relentlessly sprayed, removed, and treated as an unwanted invader in lawns and gardens. Entire industries exist solely to eliminate it. And yet every part of the dandelion is useful, edible, and medicinal. Its leaves are among the most nutrient-dense greens available, containing high levels of calcium, potassium, iron, and antioxidants. The roots have been used for generations to support liver health, digestion, and detoxification processes. When roasted, the roots can even serve as a substitute for coffee. The flowers are edible, beneficial for health, and play a vital role in supporting pollinators by providing early-season nectar when few other plants are in bloom. From an ecological perspective, dandelions are natural soil restorers. Their deep taproots penetrate compacted soil, drawing up minerals from deeper layers and bringing them closer to the surface. When the plant eventually dies back, these nutrients remain available for other plants to use. Dandelions tend to appear in areas where the soil is stressed or depleted, not by coincidence, but because they serve a restorative function. They do not spread out of aggression. They spread because the land requires healing. Dandelions do not depend on fertilizers, irrigation, or human care. They establish themselves, stabilize the soil, support insects, feed animals, and provide nourishment for people, all while being labeled as a nuisance.